Hello there, I'm Stephanie Smith from slsmithassociates.com, and I am a consultant who works with clients to help them implement systems and change within their organizations, both efficiently, effectively, and smoothly. And because of this experience and the time that I get to spend with clients on a day-to-day basis, I am fortunate enough to have to create training plans over and over and over again for different types of businesses, different types of organizations. And because of that, I thought I would share with you what I consider my secret formula for creating a good training plan that can be repeatable over and over again, regardless of your training content. So today, in today's video, I'd like to cover for you how to create a training plan that is both clear, concise, and repeatable, regardless of the content that you need to cover. So let's get started. So a good solid training plan, in my opinion, should consist of 10 critical components. And those 10 critical components are what I want to review with you now. So the very first thing you want to do whenever you're thinking about training an audience about training any kind of content, you first want to put together a training outline. So step number one, or critical component number one, is a training outline. This training outline needs to be an outline of all of the content you're going to cover from a 10,000 foot level. You have to start organizing all the thoughts in your head, and this is your outline. So this is getting it all from your head, putting it on paper, and it's going to allow you to think through and make sure that you don't forget anything before you get down into too much detail. Critical component number two of a good training plan is putting together the training courses. So I'm a very methodical person. I work well when processes are put together and the steps are lined out for me. So when I have the training outline, I'm now going to start breaking that training outline down in critical component number one, and I'm going to start breaking it down into critical component number two, which is your training courses. So here within your training courses, this is where you want to go from your 10,000 foot level, and you want to go down to your 5,000 foot level. Okay, and this is where you want to start mapping out your courses and how you're going to take that training outline and how you're going to break it up. Now, some recommendations for you on training courses is you want to try to obviously logically break up the content so that you make sure that what you're talking about is about the same thing and you're not mixing things together in the same course. But you also want to be cognizant of the fact that you don't want your users to be sitting for hours and hours and hours at a time. It makes sense that you have them focus on one particular idea, process, or area of the organization, and then you give them a break by completing that training course and then starting a new one later if you have more content to review with them. So your training courses are going to be taking that outline and breaking it down a little further. Now, something separate, but something that's required in critical component number three is you have to list all the users that you need to train. So of that training outline and all that content that you need to cover, there should be a list of people within the organization that you need to make sure gets this message. Start to document who those people are. These are your training attendees. Start your list of those training attendees. Once you have that list of training attendees of who should be getting the content, now in critical component number four, or what you could call step number four, I want you to create a training matrix. And here in the training matrix, you're going to have your individual users on the left side of the page. So these are the people that your training attendees that you identified in step three, or in component number three. You're going to list those on the left side, and up on the top of the page, you're going to list your specific courses. And now what I want you to do is I want you to map the users to the actual course. And this is going to give you your list of attendees for your course, okay? So that's critical component number four. Once you've completed that, and that tells you what you're going to train and who you're going to train, okay? That gives you your summary, or that gives you your idea of the total effort, if you will. Now we're going to break it down and we're going to come down another level, and each one of those courses that you identified in critical component number 2 as for the courses, you are going to now branch into critical component number 5, and you're going to start to put together course presentations. These course presentations are usually PowerPoint presentations. That's typically like how I like to handle them. So they're the PowerPoint presentation that while you're giving the training class, this is what you're going to display up on the board to kind of help guide you through the course. For you, the instructor. They're more for you, the instructor, than they are for the individuals, but it makes sure it kind of lays it out in a little bit more professional content, or a little bit more professional format. So you're going to put together each one of those training courses as you come up with. You're going to put together a presentation for each one of those. I highly suggest you come up with a template. I highly suggest that that each one of them looks the same, just the content inside is slightly different. This just helps keep consistency, looks a little bit more professional, and typically when things look a little bit more professional, your audience tends to pay attention a little bit better. Now, course, critical component number 6. Critical component number 6 is your course documentation. Okay, so now you have the presentation. The presentation is going to cover and it's going to present all the content to the users while you are up in front of them. However, you need to support that presentation while you're reviewing it with the users. You need to support that with documentation. You need to be passing out documentation while you're giving that presentation. You need to be giving the individual users documents that they can see, read, put notes on, that they can touch, that they're going to take back with them. So later when they're doing on their own what you are teaching them, they have something to reference. These are things like business process documents, flow charts, work instructions, cheat sheets, anything that's related to what the specific course is about, any kind of documentation that you can give them that's going to help them when they're away from you is what you want to do here in critical component number 6 for your course reference documentation. Moving on to critical component number 7. Number 7 is now you've trained them. Now they went through and got their documentation, but now if you don't have them do exercises, right? Critical component number 7 is exercise sessions. If you don't schedule exercise sessions to have them practice what you just taught them about, they are not going to retain it. So I cannot stress enough, exercise sessions are very, very important. And especially if you're dealing with software implementations like I primarily do, teaching them how to put their hands on the keyboard, their hands on the mouse, looking at different screens, challenging the system, putting their process in place, having them do that over and over again, that sparks additional questions, that sparks a different, more dialogue. People start asking questions differently when you start asking them to put it into play. Okay, so I can't stress exercise sessions enough. Those, you should do those if you're actually implementing something and you're training them on something for implementation. From the time you train them and do that course presentation and you give them that documentation, they should have an exercise session every week until you implement that process, until that process goes live. I highly suggest that you schedule exercise sessions with them on a weekly basis where you make them do what you taught them. In addition to exercise sessions, critical component number 8 talks about Q&A sessions. And a lot of people don't do Q&A sessions, and I've only started doing these within the last several years, and I've seen a significant impact on the content retention in the trainees, and I now will not move forward without it. So training Q&A sessions. So along with the exercise sessions, you should, not necessarily every week, but a check-in, schedule a Q&A sessions with the users to bring them in and require them to bring 2 to 3 questions, no matter how silly they are. Bring 2 or 3 questions about the specific topic that you're holding the Q&A session for. When they do this, and you do this with a room full of all the attendees who attended the original training course, usually somebody else had that same question, or Your question helps somebody else come up with another question. And as you start to pull those questions out of the individuals and you start answering the questions, their questions that come from their mind, not stuff that came from you as the instructor, but it came from them, and you can repeat the answers back to them, the light bulb starts coming on more and more, just like the more exercises. So Q&A sessions, guys, there's power in Q&A. Try it out. I think you're really going to like it. So critical component number 9 is assessments. So assessments are just that. They're tests. And I don't like to use the word test because it freaks out the attendees. I like to use assessments because what I like to do with these is not only try to identify did you pass or did you fail, right? The organization or the management of the organization may want to know, who got it, who didn't, who passed, who failed. But me, as the instructor, what I want to know is, did I cover the content well enough? Did they get this piece of the content, but not this piece? And maybe I need to focus more time over on this piece. These assessments and how you ask the questions in the assessments are going to give you that information. So again, just like there's power in the Q&A, there's power in the assessments. So ask them questions, not things like true or false. Does this turn blue when you mix it together? Don't ask them silly things like that. Ask them real life things, real life questions that they're going to get if somebody calls them up on the phone and they answer their desk phone, or real questions they're going to get when one of their operators comes off the line and comes into the office and asks a team lead a question about something that he's struggling with a particular order or an issue that he's having with inventory. Give them real questions that they're going to face every day. And then again, that's practice. That is exercises, because that's really what's going to happen to them. And you got to make sure they can take what's really going to happen to them, mix it with the content that you gave them, mix it with the documentation that you gave them, and make sure they can really do their job and they can really make it happen. Okay? So that kind of ties it all together. The assessment ties it all together. It makes usually your management team happy because now you've tested everyone, but it also is good for you, the instructor, and the individuals, because it lets them know where they're at, what they need to focus, spend more time on, or what do they got, and they don't need to focus as much time. Once you get these assessments and you get them graded, use that term lightly, once you get them graded, turn them in so that it can be recorded that they took the assessment. But then what I want you to do is I want you to return that assessment back to the users. And if they got an answer wrong or they weren't quite right, write the right answer on the paper for them so they can put it with the reference documentation in their binder that they're hopefully putting together, okay, and or their folder, depending on the volume of your content. They can put that in there and they can pull that out as a reference as well after their implementation has occurred, okay? And lastly, component number 10, it wraps it all together. This is just simply a tracker, right? So you wrote down at the beginning what courses you need to cover. You wrote down who needed to attend those courses. You actually had the training, right? You had the exercise sessions. You had the Q&A sessions, okay? You took the assessment or gave them the assessment. You need to keep track that all those things happened, that you did them, that they're complete, who showed up, who didn't show up, and you keep a tracker. It's a matrix, right? It's percentage of attendance. It's who attended, who didn't attend. Is it complete? Is it not complete? Right? Use a tracker to give these matrix. These matrix can then go back, to the organization, or these charts, whatever you decide to create out of them, can go back to the management team, and they can feel comfortable that you're actually making it happen and you're delivering content to the organization as they expect that you do. So guys, like I said at the beginning, I've done these plenty of times. They work over and over and over again. They have never failed me. In my 18 years of SAP training, they have never failed me. I have done many things from process to software to just organizational change. And I continue to use this model with my training. Got great feedback on it. Head over to slsmithassociates.com. Check out the reviews of the clients that work with us. They love what we're doing. If you have a question, if you want to know more about what we do, check out the Contact Us section on our website. Send me a line. I'd love to hear from you. And if you know someone that could use this information, they're getting ready to go through an implementation, if they're thinking about it, if they just need to do some training, or there's somebody that's in charge of training and they're not sure where to start, send them this video. Let them know about it. Like, comment, and share below, and get this to all the people that you know. So I appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful, and we'll talk to you soon.